Hello. Listen, as you all come in, please make sure you all are hitting that like button. And if you like what you see, please make sure that you are subscribing to my channel. Also, just to let you all know that I have a second channel where I will be placing all my movie and television reviews, and that's PETV_reacts. Go ahead and follow that second channel for me. Again, that is PETV_reacts. I will be doing all of my movie trailers, movie reviews, TV series reviews over there. Please subscribe because I'd like to get to 200 subscribers so that I can go live on that channel as well. Also, as you all are entering, please make sure you're hitting that like button. Uh, and if you like what you see, please make sure that you subscribe. Good afternoon, Ernest. How are you doing today? We got a lot to get into today. We're going to go over some stuff today in regards to this. Before we do that, I want to get out my shout outs for allowing me to have this information. Y'all, make sure, hold on. Shout out to Lauren Neidig. I follow her. She goes under the YouTube banner of the Court of Random Opinions. She does a lot of information and things over there. Hold on, let me make sure I add her to the stage. Take you off, add her to the stage. The Court of Random Opinion. If you like celebrity legal news, particularly if you're involved with the or want to know more about the Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni case, please go over there and follow Lauren over there. And I want to shout her out because she was the one that dug and got this information for us. And also, another shout out for someone who always gives me information as well is this ex-subscriber Documentings. He also has a YouTube page. If you want to know about the information going on with Megan Thee Stallion, Tyler Perry, and all of this stuff like this, he definitely will get you. He gets that information too. So I do want to shout them out because they, without them getting this information for me, some of that stuff would be, you have to pay for it. And a lot of that, I try to get as many freebies as I can. And again, it won't hurt anything at all. You can help me pay it forward by making sure that you subscribe to those channels. All right. So why are we here? We are here because a couple of days ago, it was reported in the news that Will Smith is being sued over allegations that he retaliated against one of his employees who reported sexual harassment. Okay, this is why we're here. Now, if you have been following a lot of these things, particularly with there's going to be a connection between the Tyler Perry case and this case, and I'm going to let you all know later. But just to kind of give you an overview of what's going on, let's look at what this article by NBC News is saying. It says a violinist accused Will Smith of retaliation after he said he was fired for reporting SH while on tour with the actor and rapper, according to a lawsuit filed earlier. I have that lawsuit, and we'll definitely be going it. The suit filed in Los Angeles County Superior Court is linked to what the complaint describes as a hotel intrusion. Okay. Now, the violinist is named Brian King Joseph. All right. And so, do we know about Mr. Brian King Joseph? He is, let's see. I thought I had that information up. But what I know about Brian King Joseph, that he was on a reality show. He placed third in a reality show. Also, from my understanding, like again, this is something that I grazed at when I looked at this information. What I grazed at looking at this information was that he also has some sort of disability. Now, I can't pull the thing up because, like I said, I was going through here trying to find so much information that I lost that information, but he has some kind of nerve condition. So the reason why that's important is that we'll get into what the lawsuit says in just a second. Okay. So let's pull that lawsuit up. And again, y'all go and subscribe to Lauren, because she's the one that brought this up, and this is how we're able to see it. So here we have the lawsuit. Now, before I told you that I would tell you that there were some connections between oh, well, thank you. No perspective, new sub to both channels. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to have you here. I'm glad to have you here. Uh, Again, there's a connection to the Tyler Perry case. And what is that connection? You see it up there in the corner. Jonathan J. Delshad. Jonathan J. Delshad is the attorney who is also suing Tyler Perry on behalf of Derek Dixon. He is also the attorney who's suing Tyler Perry on behalf of Mario Rodriguez. And now we see that he is the attorney on behalf of Brian King Joseph suing Will Smith. So I wanted us to have that connection so we can understand and know that we have that connection. Also, again, as we go through this lawsuit, things that are important for you to be understand what's important in regards to these lawsuits and these pleadings. Right up here in the corner where you see electronically filed. Let me see if I can highlight this. No. Yeah, but you see my cursor over here. It was electronically filed in the County of Los Angeles, Superior Court of California on 12/30/2025 at 2:31 p.m. And also, what's important for you to know if this is legitimate is down here, right up under where it says Superior Court of California, this little section right here, case number. It has to have a case number. If you don't see these two things in tandem, then it's probably something that somebody has drafted up and put it up on the internet, but they haven't filed it. And a lot of times you can tell, particularly with the federal ones, this electronically filed stuff will be in a light blue, right, going across the top. Okay. So let's get down here. We have the plaintiff, who is Brian King Joseph, and he is suing the defendants, Trey Ball Studio Management Incorporation. Incorp is a California corporation, and my understanding, this is a corporation run by Will Smith. And they are also suing Willard Carroll Smith II, an individual. Now, if you're not familiar who Willard Carroll Smith is, the second, that is the full government name of Will Smith. All right. He was named after his daddy. And then we have the Does 1 through 50 inclusive. And I've told you before, anytime you have those Jane or John Does, that means that there are people that have done something. He, at the time of this filing, did not know who these people were or what their names were. But as soon as they figure that information out, they're going to definitely come back and add their names to the lawsuit. Down here, you see that they are demanding for a jury trial. But let's get into the complaints. So there are complaints that he's suing him civilly. This is a civil lawsuit, not a criminal, but a civil lawsuit. The burden of proof is much lower in a civil lawsuit versus a criminal. You got to have it beyond a reasonable doubt. So in this complaint, he's suing for retaliation in violation of FEHA, Government Code Section 12940H. And FEHA, if you're not familiar, is the Fair Employment and Housing Act. And this is California's primary law against discrimination and harassment in employment. Okay. Fair employment and housing. Retaliation pursuant to California labor codes. He's suing for wrongful termination in violation of public policy. He's suing for a Bain Act violation. Now, let me go up here and get you all, because we've heard these things. Anytime that we have reviewed any cases coming out of California, anytime we've reviewed cases coming out of California, they either have the Bain Act or the Ralph Act, or both. One or the other, or both. Now, the Bain Act is allowing lawsuits against individuals who interfere with someone's constitutional right of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And they interfere with that through force, threats, intimidation, coercion, regardless of discriminatory motive. They're just doing it. The Ralph Act protects individuals, and this is almost like under the Civil Rights Act. It protects individuals from violence, threats, or intimidation based on their race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, and disability, and other protected characteristics. Okay. And remember, I told you, like, I pulled away from it, but I didn't. But apparently he does have some type of nerve ending disability. And so we'll just go with that. So let's get down to who it is. Summary of action. This is what he is, and we're going to read this. Now, also, I'm not going to read every point in this lawsuit. I think we just need to get the gist of what's really going on and then kind of go over and talk about that. And I'll give my commentary in regards to that. It says here the defendant wrongfully terminated and retaliated against plaintiff, who is Brian King Joseph, in violation of the California Labor Code, California Labor Code 1102.5, California Labor Code 6310, and multiple instances of California public policy. This section prohibits employers from terminating or retaliating against employees for engaging in protective activities such as reporting illegal or unsafe working conditions. Here, plaintiff was terminated based on his complaints of unsafe working conditions and practices that defendant engaged in. Plaintiff seeks to recover for this flagrant violation of law. So we're going to go over what this is over here. And again, we talk about the parties. The plaintiff, the person who is suing, is Brian King Joseph. The people that he is suing is Treyball Studios Management. It's a Delaware corporation doing business in California. And then we have Willard Carroll Smith, which is the full government name of Will Smith. They're also, plaintiff is ignorant to the true names and capacity of defendant sued here is as Does 1 through 50. And so when they get those names, they're going to definitely give us come back and add their names to the lawsuit. Venue and jurisdiction, because this is a company doing business in the state of California, and also plus Willard Carroll Smith II is a resident of California. And I do believe the young man was hired in the state of California. They're looking at the fact that California Superior Court has jurisdiction of this case. All right. So now let's get into the factual allegations. This is the meat and potatoes. This is what we're going to read and go over and get commentary, critiques, or whatever. So once again, as you all are coming in, please make sure y'all are hitting that like button. Please make sure you are hitting that like button. And also, if you want to hear my reviews of movies and television series, I have a second channel for that. Again, that is PETV_reacts. Again, at PETV_reacts. Please make sure you subscribe to that channel. And if you help me out to get to 200 people, I will be able to go live on that particular channel. Let's get everything. All right. It says here, plaintiff is a professional violinist who became employed by defendants in connection with a high-profile live music tour as a touring musician and crew member. Following studio sessions with several high-profile artists, plaintiff was referred to defendants for a potential recording opportunity. Two representatives for defendants contacted plaintiff about coming out to Smith's personal residence for an introduction. And I'm going to stop there because I'm going to give you a little bit of my own commentary. I think it's so important, whether you are an entrepreneur, whether you are an artist, whether you are whatever it is, I think it's so important that you have a buffer. Yes, I will. I think it's so important that you have a buffer. I will. I'll put a link in there. Give me a few minutes. It's important that you have a buffer. And what I mean by a buffer, meaning you have a liaison or whatever it is, that when you're doing these different things, you conduct it in with the liaison and with the place. Do not mix for any reason. And I know Hollywood is a totally different beast, but I need y'all to see where I'm not blaming the defendants for these actions. I'm not saying they did it. I'm not saying that they didn't. But I am telling you that there are things that we can look at to show that there are things that will get you caught up. because people have very strong parasocial relationships with you, and you don't know that that's what's going on. And the one thing that I see right here is two representatives for the defendant, that's your liaison, contacted the plaintiff about coming out to Smith's what? Personal residence. There should be a buffer. I am quite sure that Will Smith has a office somewhere or something like that. That should be your buffer. Because a lot of times that I'm seeing in all of these lawsuits is that people are going out to these people's personal homes, personal residence, hotel rooms, all of these different things. And like I said, I understand that Hollywood is a different business, but we have to get in a mindset, people, that you have to have a buffer. And your home residence, in my opinion, is a no-no. No, 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 no. I don't care what it is, because you don't know what these people are thinking when you bring them out to your home. Oh my gosh, they like me. They love me because I get to go out to their homes. You don't know what's going on. They may have all this talent, but you don't know what's going on. And all of that kind of energy, if you believe in all these energies and all these things of different people and auras, you don't need that in your personal space. So I would just advise anybody, like I said, anybody that you're doing business, if you're an entrepreneur, if you are in the entertainment business, please conduct your business in a buffer place. Even I don't even have an issue or problem, even if it's a restaurant. Make it somewhere that there's a buffer between you and all these situations, because I've seen these lawsuits, and that's what's been an issue and problem. All these people have been invited in people's personal places, or the defendants have invited them into the personal space, and that's where they've gone. In my opinion, that's the first red flag of where you go wrong. And those of you all that have been taken advantage, that's the first red flag of where you've gone wrong. And I need us to get better with this. I really do need us to get better with this. Give me one moment. Give me one player. Give me 1 second, y'all. I'm copying so I can put the link down in the chat. Let's hope it comes up. There. All right. Let's continue. Because I didn't want to forget to put that link there. All right, let me put it on a sticky note, so therefore I have it for the next time someone asks for it. All right, so again, I went on my little tirade about that personal reference and having those buffers. All right, so then it says, in or around November of 2024, Omar provided plaintiff with Smith's address, where plaintiff met Smith and showcased his talent on the violin. Now, let me just tell you something about Mr. Delshad. I don't know is because that he is putting these pleadings together and someone is not proofing. But one of the things that I have found out for him, that he does make they're simple mistakes. However, they're huge when you go and you look into what he's talking about. And what I'm talking about here is Omar. Omar wasn't, and if I've gone back, because I've read this and I didn't see Omar's name anywhere up in here. So we don't know who Omar is. So Omar must work with He didn't mention Omar's name. So we don't know who Omar is, other than the fact that Omar provided plaintiff with Smith's address. So obviously that must be somebody. I'm assuming that they must be a liaison to Will Smith, where plaintiff met Smith and showcased his talents on the violin. At this same meeting, Smith invited plaintiff to join Smith at an upcoming performance in San Diego, which was set for December of 2024, and ultimately to join Smith as part of his global tour based on a true story 2025 tour. In or around December of 2024, plaintiff performed at Smith's San Diego show and was subsequently invited by Smith to be more involved with the performance. Smith expressed to plaintiff that he was a valued member of the group and slowly provided plaintiff with additional stage time and features during the courses of his show. And again, this is why I say that whatever that word means, let that meaning be of that word. Stop substituting things. In other words, you'll have a girlfriend, but you'll say that she's wifey. No, she's a girlfriend. Wife's a totally different role. Stop substituting this word, because again, what I'm seeing is valued member. And what does that mean? Be very clear and succinct about what these things mean. Thereafter, Smith invited plaintiff to play on several tracks on the Smiths' upcoming album, and their relationship grew closer. Smith and plaintiff began spending additional time alone, with Smith even telling plaintiff that you and I have such a special connection that I don't have with anyone else, and other similar expressions indicating his closeness to plaintiff. All right. What's the relationship? And again, like I said, I don't move in Hollywood spaces. And I know a lot of times people get real comfortable with you and start talking a certain way. And again, you got to watch out. You got to be able to have clear, distinct relationship ties. You are an employee. You are this. You are that. You are a valued member of my staff. Is a special connection because they're musically inclined? What is their special connection? Following a 2-month break from the December performance, plaintiff was provided with documentation and touring information for Smith's global tour. The tour would span over several months, and plaintiff was provided with a full schedule for the upcoming performances. In reliance of the upcoming tour, plaintiff advised defendants' representatives that he will be spending thousands of dollars for additional music equipment, medication, and other necessities for the upcoming tour. So this must be what he's talking about. He was going to be spending thousands of dollars. So again, there is some type of condition that this young man has. So plaintiff advised defendants' representatives that he would be spending thousands of dollars for additional music equipment, medication, and other necessities for the. So he's stocking up. He's having to do all of this stuff to stock up, and he advised them that he was doing that. In or around March 2025, plaintiff joined Smith for the first leg of tour in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I'm making the assumption that the documentation and touring, somewhere in there, he was provided with this. I'm assuming that there was some sort of contract signed that he was going to do that, and he was going to get paid for all of this. Because a lot of times I've read, in particular from this particular lawyer, that it's more of this, instead of giving us the meat and potatoes of there was a contract signed on such and such date and all this other stuff, they give us this, documentation was signed, and that they were good, they had a relationship, and not really pinpointing what that relationship was. We're just supposed to guess. In or around March 2025, plaintiff joined Smith for the first leg of the tour in Las Vegas, Nevada. Defendant booked rooms for plaintiff, the rest of the band, and crew members, with each individual room number and confirmation code being sent on a spreadsheet to cast and crew. No other individuals besides for the crew and hotel staff would have access to the plaintiff's personal room. That's important. Plaintiff's bags, which contained his room key, was left in the van responsible for transporting all the cast and crew members of defendant's team at around 11 a.m. when plaintiff and crew were dropped off at the venue for rehearsal. Plaintiff requested that management retrieve his bag at 3 p.m., at which point management indicated that they were unable to find it. So between the hours of 11 a.m. on this particular day to 3 p.m. on this particular day, he left his bag in the van with all of his stuff in it. And then when he realized that, he asked them to go get his bag back. At 5 p.m., management returned to plaintiff with the bag, okay, which contained plaintiff's key. On or about March 20th, 2025, at around 11 p.m., while staying at a hotel in Las Vegas for a scheduled performance with defendant's tour, plaintiff returned to his assigned hotel room and discovered evidence suggesting that an unknown person had unlawfully entered the room. So now we're saying that between the hours of 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on March 20th, his bag was unsupervised. It was in the van. We don't know if the van was locked. We don't know what was going on with the van. And then we're saying that at around 5 p.m., management found his bag and gave him his bag. And so between the time of 5 p.m. and 11 p.m., he had his bag. But when he got back to his hotel room, there were some things going on. Things were awry. Plaintiff returned to his assigned hotel room and discovered evidence suggesting that an unknown person had unlawfully entered the room. According to hotel security, there were no signs of forced entry into the room, and the only individuals with access to the room would have been part of defendant's management team who booked the room for plaintiff. This information was documented by phone calls between the plaintiff and the hotel security. The evidence included a handwritten note addressed to plaintiff by name, which read, "Brian, I'll be back no later, and they 5:30, just us," and there was a heart, stone F. Among the remaining belongings were wipes, a beer bottle, a red backpack, a bottle of HIV medication with another individual's name, an earring, and a hospital discharge paperwork belonging to a person unbeknownst to plaintiff. Plaintiff feared that an unknown individual would soon return to his room to engage in acts of the intimate nature with physical touch with the plaintiff. Concerned for his safety and the safety of his fellow performers and crew, plaintiff immediately notified hotel security and representatives for the defendant, obtained photo documentation, requested a room change, and called the local non-emergency police line 311 to report the incident. Okay. Okay. That's what he needed to do. Plaintiff reported the event and followed all instructions he was given by defendant's management team. He filed a full written incident report with hotel security, communicated with hotel management, and offered to provide all information to defendant. Plaintiff made clear that his only concern was safety and that he did not wish to receive any special treatment or compensation. On or around March 21st, 2025, plaintiff traveled back to Los Angeles the next day to support the cast and crew for a pre-recorded show. However, plaintiff was told by Tim Miller that it was too late to enter through the crew entrance and that they would see him in New Mexico just weeks later for the next leg of the tour. That's interesting. And who's Tim Miller? Because see, we don't know who this person is. Who is Tim Miller? And that they would see him in New Mexico just weeks later for the next leg of the tour. On or around March 23rd, 2025, plaintiff reached out to Miller to speak about the next leg of the tour. On or around March 24th, plaintiff spoke with Miller. So I'm assuming that Tim Miller is someone who is associated with Will Smith and them. What's his capacity? We don't know because they didn't list it. On or around March 24th, 2025, plaintiff spoke with Miller, during which Miller began blaming plaintiff for the incident that transpired on March the 20th. Rather than being protected against further assault and for attempting to understanding plaintiff's complaint, plaintiff was shamed by defendant and told that he was being terminated. All right, see, this is where I'm having an issue about clarity. Because when we read these two things, you're saying that you talked with Miller. Then you're saying that defendant, and the defendant was either, so is Miller part of the production or as the defendant, or is the defendant Will Smith that told you that he was being terminated? When plaintiff requested for further reasoning, Tim Miller, acting on behalf of defendants, so he must be someone who was in that capacity, but they didn't let us know earlier, redirected the blame for the termination on plaintiff, replying, "I don't know. You tell me, because everyone is telling me that what happened to you is a lie. Nothing happened, and you made the whole thing up. So tell me, why did you lie and make this up?" Plaintiff, shocked at the accusation, had nothing further to say and felt as though that the reports, evidence, and turmoil from the night before spoke for itself. As requested by Miller, plaintiff submitted evidence in a timeline of events that transpired on March 20th, 2025, attempting to explain the traumatic series of events that occurred that evening. Defendants never made any effort to verify if the safety concern was true or not. One call to the hotel security would have been sufficient. Instead, defendant was intent on firing plaintiff because he reported the attempted SA. Miller also indicated in person and via email that the tour was moving in a different direction, which was part of the reason for plaintiff's termination. However, following plaintiff's report and termination, defendant hired another violinist to assume the same position in the tour. This hiring strongly suggested that defendant's stated reason for termination was pretextual. And I'm gathering that means they were moving in another direction, but they were moving in without you. But we're going to need a violinist, and we're going to have that new violinist in that spot that you were in. Plaintiff further pleads on information and belief that defendant's conduct goes beyond a mere failure to protect an employee's safety or a dispute over a claim. The facts strongly suggest the defendant, Willard Carroll Smith, was deliberately grooming and priming Mr. Joseph for further exploitation. The sequence of events, Smith's prior statement to plaintiff, and the circumstances of the hotel intrusion all point to a pattern of predatory behavior rather than an isolated incident. Defendant's action caused plaintiff severe emotional distress, economic loss, reputational harm, and other damages. Plaintiff was also harmed as a result of the stress of losing his job. His health deteriorated, causing major physiological damage. Plaintiff suffered from PTSD and other mental illness as a result of the termination. So let's go back and see what we're talking about. So you met Will Smith. He hired you to go on tour. You technically only went on tour one date. That's what it seems like to me, 1 or 2 dates. There was an incident where you were separated from your bag. You asked somebody to go retrieve your bag. They initially tell you that they couldn't find your bag. Then at 5 p.m., someone in the management staff had retrieved your bag. So between 5 p.m. and 11 p.m., I guess you all are doing the show or whatever is going on. When you get back to your room, you notice that there is a note written for you. There is a red bag. And in this red bag, there is a beer bottle. There is some HIV medication and other different things in this bag. And you are suing. You said that you contacted the hotel security. You contacted the defendants. You called 311. You did all of these different things because you were concerned about your safety. I can't remember. Let's go back up. Did he get a room change? He requested a room change and called the local non-emergency. So he requested it. It doesn't tell me if he got a room change or not. All right. So in that little brief summary, we got some information. Now, he's saying that Will Smith was going back into the room or left. He's saying that Will Smith left him the note. Now, the name that he said was on that note is not Will Smith's name. Is that a nickname that they give Will Smith? Something strong? So let's go in here. Retaliation and violation is the first cause of action. Remember, we read the complaints up at the top. First cause of action is retaliation and violation of reporting SH via FEHA, and that is the that is the Fair Employment and Housing Act. And I'm not going to read, let me see. We're not going to read all this, but says here that plaintiff was an employee of the defendant working in California. Defendant took an adverse employment action against claimant by terminating his employment as the tour violinist for Smith's global tour. Among other things, defendant terminated plaintiff's employment because he made opposed practices forbidden by government code 12940H, which he reported what he reasonably believed to be a sex-based harassment at work. Plaintiff's complaint of this sex-based harassment was a substantial motivating reason for the adverse employment action. Defendant removed plaintiff's previous role as the tour violinist for the next show in Los Angeles and then effectively terminated his employment from the tour altogether. They said that plaintiff was harmed. The defendant's decision to remove him from the tour and end his employment altogether directly caused plaintiff harm. As a direct and proximate result of the acts of defendants, as alleged above, plaintiff has suffered humiliation, mental and physical distress, and anxiety, and has been generally damaged in an amount to be ascertained at the time of trial. The acts of defendant and each of them were undertaken for improper purposes as alleged above and were willful, wanton, deliberate, malicious, oppressive, despicable, unconscious disregard of plaintiff's rights and were designed and intended to cause and did in fact cause plaintiff to suffer economic damages, physical pain and injury, and substantial emotional distress and significant PTSD. Second cause, retaliation of labor code. And I'm assuming that we will see all of the same things. I'm just going to glance through it. Basically, plaintiff hereby claims that defendant discharged him in retaliation for engaging in protected activities when he reported unlawful conduct during a work tour. Plaintiff complained about the illegality of such conduct to defendant's employees or representatives. He was discharged. You're going back over the PTSD and all of this. Third cause, retaliatory termination in violation of public policy. At all times relevant to this complaint, it has been the law of the state of California to prevent retaliation against employees who complain about workplace health and safety conditions. It is unlawful for an employer to terminate an employee when the discharge of the employee contravenes the dictates of public policy. Plaintiff claims he was discharged from employment with defendant for reporting the conduct that violated the public policy. Leading up to the time of the discharge, he was employed by the defendant. And again, he suffered they go back over the same things, the suffered humiliation, the mental distress, go on and go on. Fourth cause, Bain Act violation. Following the unlawful entry by an unknown person and the leaving of personal items and a note addressed to plaintiff in his hotel room while employed by the defendant, plaintiff exercised his right by reporting the incident to hotel security, filing a written report, contacting defendant's management, filing a report with them, and requesting that the appropriate safety measures be taken. Following these protected actions, defendants through their agents and representatives engaged in threats, intimidation, and or coercion by abruptly terminating plaintiff's employment. These acts were intended to and did cause plaintiff to reasonably believe that if he exercised his right to report workplace safety hazards or demand a safe working environment, defendants would take adverse employment actions against him, including termination of his livelihood and damage his professional reputation. In the alternative, defendant's termination of plaintiffs was a retaliatory act intended to punish him for exercising the above rights. Plaintiff believes that Will Smith himself was involved in the decision to terminate plaintiff. As a direct and proximate result of defendant's action, plaintiff suffered and continues to suffer substantial harm, including economic loss, severe emotional distress, PTSD, and as we go on. We have his fifth cause with the Ralph Act. And this is like the civil rights part of the act, but California versions, you can't, it protects an individual. Let me read it again from Musticky. From violence, threats, or intimidation based on his race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, disability, and other protected characteristics. The intrusion into plaintiff's hotel room was a violent act and or intimidation by threat of violence against plaintiff's person and property in a sexual nature. The circumstances include the personal nature of the items left behind, the note addressed to plaintiff, and prior statements by Smith to plaintiff such as, "You and I have such a special connection," support the inference that plaintiff believed that the substantial motivating reason for the unlawful entry and related conduct was plaintiff's sex and sexual orientation. Now, let me make sure this is the last thing, and it's going to go back through sixth cause, the sexual harassment, and violation of the Fair Employment and Housing Act, which states that it makes it illegal for an employer or labor organization, employment agency, apprenticeship training program, or any other training program leading to employment, or any other person because of race, religious creed, color, national origin, ancestry, physical disability, mental disability, medical condition, as we go on. It also states that an employer may be responsible for the acts of non employees with respect to harassment of employees, applicants, unpaid interns or volunteers, or persons providing services pursuant to a contract in the workplace. If the employer or his agents or supervisors know or should have known of the conduct and fails to take immediate and appropriate corrective action. And again, it talks about how he was harmed. So now let's get to the prayer or relief. Plaintiff prays for the following: for special, general, and compensatory damages according to proof at trial, for punitive damages according to proof at trial, for reasonable attorney fees, expert witness fees, and other litigation expenses pursuant to law, for injunctive relief where the court deems appropriate, for all other relief the court deems appropriate and just, and for a total amount of damages as determined by court. And this was filed by Jonathan Delshad, December 29th, 2025. Let me see what you all are saying down in the comments. Thank you. Subscribe. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. So what are y'all thinking about what you heard? Let me just explain what from me. And again, I'm just reading this. I'm reading what they're saying. He's saying, I don't have enough meat and potatoes. You're trying to feed me soup. You're trying to feed me bone broth. And though I know that you can make a meal out of bone broth, but I'm not sick, and I don't have to have a very light meal on my stomach. I need some more meat and potatoes. And again, I talked about earlier about these parasocial relationships, because all I've seen in the way this lawsuit reads, you met him, he invited you to his house, he liked what you see, you were able to do a showcase with him, and he well, let me go back. He had his team reach out to you because he liked what he had seen, the work that you have done before when you worked with different artists. He invites you over to his home to talk about his tour and your place in this tour. And then we jump to the fact that he says to you that you and him have such a special connection. We don't know, is that something that happened throughout the tour? We don't know if it happened in between the tour. You don't say anything about that. It's just that he told you that he had a special connection to you. And then you do your first show. While you do your first show, they give you your room key and all of the information that you need. There's a spreadsheet that says whose room is where, and who's assigned to that room, and then you're given the key to that room. Because once you're given that key, you are responsible for your belongings. You are always responsible for your belongings. You say that you all had a van that you all traveled in, and you left your bag in the van with the room key in the van. You were separated from approximately a total of 2.5 to 3 hours from your bag. And at that point, when you realize that, you ask somebody from management to go retrieve your bag. They were told that they didn't see your bag, that they didn't find your bag. Then subsequently, a couple of hours later, which would have been 5 p.m., they come back with you with your bag. So from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m., you are now, you have your bag. You're in possession of your bag. However, you are away from your hotel room. And it seems like you've been away from your hotel room since 11 o'clock that morning. So upon you entering your hotel room at 11 p.m., you notice things that are untoward. And let's go in to talk about the things that you noticed. So again, we got November 24th is when Omar told you that Will Smith wanted to talk with you, and particularly about his tour based on a true story, 2025. They then have you to join him on December 24th on this tour on an updating a performance. You do join him, and then he wants you to join his global tour. You perform at that place in San Diego. At this point, he tells you you are a valued member of the group, and you slowly provided plaintiff with additional stage time and features. So between December and March, you get more stage time. You're doing all kinds of stuff. Okay. While you're on tour, if this additional stage time, you say that you had instances of your relationship with Will Smith grew closer between December and March. And he told you things like, you and I have such a special connection that I don't have with anyone else, and that similar expressions indicating his closeness to plaintiff. You don't go in and talk about anything else, but this is what you say. So all of this is happening between December and March. But you come back and say, following a 2-month break from the December report. So that means January and February, there was a break from the performances. So somewhere between this time, you all have had these conversations. Then you're given documentation and touring information for the group. So I guess you've handled this little contract out. But again, there's this 2-month break. Now, was this 2-month break that you all were still in communication, or was this 2 months break where you all were separate? You were doing whatever you needed to do, and he was doing whatever he needed to do. We don't know. We don't even know when all of this special connection stuff come out. It wasn't explicitly explained. You then tell them, the defendant, after you all have gotten this documentation, that you advise the defendant that you'll be spending money for additional music equipment, and that you were spending money on the medication that you needed and other necessities for the upcoming tour. So you were alerting them that this was going to cost you some money up front in order for them to be able to go on tour with them. Fine. So in and around March 25th, you joined him on the first leg of the tour. So you did the December performance, and now this is the first leg of the tour. No touring between January and February. Y'all were working out the agreements, and somewhere in that amorphous time, Will Smith has told you that you were a valued member of the team and you got more playing time. But how is there more playing time but when the first leg of the tour started in Las Vegas? I'm confused. If I'm confused, So you go on the first leg of the tour, and this is you get to this date, and then during this date, you've got issues and problems. So you booked a room, the defendant booked a room for the plaintiff, the rest of the band, and the crew members. No other individuals besides for the crew and hotel staff would have had access to his room. His bag, which contained his room key, was left in the van responsible for transporting all cast and crew members of the defendant team around for this thing. I'm confused. Yes, I can see you. And I'm confused as well. And the reason why I'm looking at this lawsuit, because again, this attorney, if you followed me and we've gone through the Derek Dixon case, and we read that how explicit, I mean, date by date by date, they were saying what they were. There were text messages. There were all this other kind of information that was put in there. If you even read the one that I just did the other day with Mario, you had dates, you had text messages, you had all of this other stuff. All of this is telling me that you all had this quick connection after a show in which there was a 2-month break, and you're not telling us whether or not that you and him were in contact during this 2-month break, you're not saying any of that information. We're just to believe that what sounds like to me, your first legitimate date, you go on tour, you're separated from your bag for approximately 3 to 4 hours. You're separated from your bag. You get your bag back at about 5 p.m. You don't get to the hotel room till 11 p.m. And then you find, this is the stuff we're going to talk about, what he found again. On or about March 20th at around 11 p.m. while staying at a hotel in Las Vegas for a scheduled performance with defendant's tour, plaintiff returned to his assigned hotel room and discovered evidence suggesting that an unknown person, excuse me, choked up on that an unknown person had unlawfully entered the room. According to hotel security, there was no signs of forced entry into the room. And the only individuals with access to the room would have been part of defendant's management team who booked the room for plaintiff. Now, hotel security would have been able to show you or tell you that during this period of time, was your room door open? Because if you've got a hotel room, because again, this is Las Vegas, and security is tight in regards to, they know when your key card has been used or a key card has been used. They know if somebody went in there, and they know those somebodies that went in there. They know when the hotel staff have gone into those rooms. They will know if you went into your room with your key. And if you got two keys, they would know, okay, key 1 went in the room this. Let me see your key. Okay, your key is key 2. So key 1 went in there, and who had key 1? Then here's the thing too. A lot of those hotels have security cameras in the hallway and security cameras on the elevator. So they would have been able to see who went in there. So the evidence include a handwritten note addressed to plaintiff by name, okay, which read, Brian, I'll be back no later, 5:30, just us, drawn heart, Stone F. And I asked earlier, what is Stone F? What does this mean? It doesn't even sound like it means anything to me. I'm just saying, we don't have the note. We don't have any of that. We don't even have that as evidence to show that was this note. We don't have any of that. Among the remaining belongings, which I guess was in, it says among the remaining belongings were wipes, a beer bottle, a red backpack, a bottle of HIV medication with another individual's name, an earring, and hospital discharge paperwork belonging to a person unbeknownst to plaintiff. My first response would be that whoever was in that room before you left that bag. Also, it sounds like your room might not have been cleaned. That's just me. I'm just saying that at my first thing with all this stuff right here, wipes, a beer bottle, red backpack, a bottle of HIV medication with somebody else's name on it. Clearly that might be belonging to someone else that was in that room before. An earring, a hospital discharge paperwork belonging to a person unbeknownst to plaintiff. I don't know what is all of this. I don't blame him because I'm not going to stay in that room, because again, it also could be a situation to where you were double booked, because I've had that happen. I've had it happen to where I've gone in and they inadvertently gave me the key to somebody else's room. And when we went into the room was disheveled and had stuff in it. And we went back downstairs and they profusely apologized because we weren't supposed to have that room. We were supposed to have the room next to that. They had made keys for the wrong room. So I've had that happen to me. And so yeah, no perspective. Listen, I'm raising all kinds of I don't begrudge him raising the hell that he raised. He needed to raise the hell that he raised. But all of this other stuff, I don't know how do you know that it was Will Smith that left this stuff, because it says Stone F. What's Stone F? Is that a name that he goes by? What makes you assume right off the bat that it was Will Smith and not somebody else on the team? I'm not caping for Will Smith. I'm just asking these are questions that I would ask. These are questions that I'd be thinking about as a juror. How do you know it was him? There were several of you and several people on staff on tour. And remember, I told you at the top of this live why I believe whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you are an employer or whatever, there has to be buffers. Because I'm still confused at why you thought that this was Will Smith. And particularly when there's medication and other things for different somebody that you don't even know. Hospital discharge paperwork lets me know that whoever that was, they left. They possibly left their stuff in there because they were so sick, or they're in the hospital again. I would be interested to see or hear about, because we don't even hear about how that transpired when he went to tell the people what happened. Did the people believe him? Did the people think that he was being hyperbolic? Did the people think that he was doing that? What exactly was going on? Because there had to be something in the way that they were doing things that when he got to the show in Los Angeles, and number two, he was late to the show because they closed the door for the crew members. That lets me know that at the time that he raised the stink about stuff, there had to be something that transpired. Something had to happen. No, y'all. This. Again, let's go back over the evidence. Included was a handwritten note addressed to plaintiff by name, which read, Brian, I'll be back no later, 5:30, just us, a heart, Stone F. You found wipes, a beer bottle, a red backpack, a bottle of HIV medication with another individual's name, an earring, hospital discharge paperwork belonging to a person unbeknownst to plaintiff. Was it the same name as the individual with the HIV medication? He feared that an unknown individual would return soon to engage into acts. How did we get from this? How did we get to this from this? And how did we get to from this from this? He's saying that Will Smith told him, you and I have such a special connection that I don't have with anyone else. And other similar expressions indicating his closeness to plaintiff. But yet, you say in the next phase, following a 2-month break from the December performance. And again, y'all met in November 2024. Hey, Blue. Let's go back over that timeline. You meet him November 2024. He asks you to accompany him to a show in San Diego on December 2024. So that means there's some rehearsal times that you had to do. From that point, he's like, hey, cool, we vibe, we're gonna do this. He says Smith, so between November and December, Smith expressed plaintiff that he was a valued member of the group and slowly provided plaintiff with additional stage time. So that tells me, Blue, you help me out if I'm thinking the same way. They have you come in because the fact that you're not a part of the show. And as they're working and doing everything, they're incorporating you in the show. And as they're incorporating you in the show and they're seeing different spots where you will be beneficial in that show, they will add you into that show. So his talent and things, they added him extra in the show. That doesn't seem personal relationship to me. That seems that your talent was getting you those extra minutes and things like that during the course of the show. They're incorporating you into the show because you were not incorporated into the show prior to November. So you're rehearsing, you're doing everything that you need to do, and now you are incorporated into this show, and he is appreciative of what you're doing, and he tells you that you are a valued member of the team. And he shows you this. He says, thereafter, Smith invited plaintiff to play on several tracks on Smith's upcoming app, and their relationship grew close. Okay, so that means that you are in the studio with him. So are you in the studio with him between the January and the March incident? Okay. Then he tells you, you and I have such a special connection that I don't have with anybody else. Cool. Then you go from a 2-month break from the December performance, and you were provided with all the information that you needed to be able to go on tour. And the first leg of the tour started in Las Vegas, Nevada in March. You gloss over this special relationship that you had between January and the first leg of the tour. How many times did you all meet up? Was it just in the studio? So again, I'm confused. I think that possibly if they're going to push this through again or whatever, they're going to have to amend it or update this. Because again, Jonathan Delshad, I've seen him when they're putting this information together. It is a lot of information. It is detailed. There are text messages, there are photos, and all this other stuff. We don't see a photo of the note. We don't see any of this kind of stuff. And so we will see. We'll just go. A lot of folks or pundits that I've been listening to are thinking that this is a money grab. I don't know. It's vague enough to keep my curiosity to see what's going on. But again, there is just certain things for me that I think, whether you are a plaintiff or whether you are a defendant, I need for folks to get to understand and get it in through your head that when you're working for people, that's a job. That's an employer to employee thing. When you all start trying to get all close and stuff like that, that's an issue and a problem. Employers, you all need to have a buffer. There always should be a liaison, someone always in the room with you with somebody else. And stop having these doggone meetings and everything else in your house, in your home. It's the consistency of this. Tyler Perry has done it. Now we see that supposedly Will Smith has done it. even when you talk about Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, she has them at the house. You go over to the house. There's something about y'all going to these people's houses, regardless of what side of the lawsuit that you fall on, that it's always messing y'all up. Stop going to people's houses. But anyway, y'all, what are y'all thinking about this lawsuit? Do you think it's a money grab? Do you think it's legitimate? Are you looking for more information like myself? Y'all let me know down in the comments. All right, people. We do this every week. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video if you care. Y'all, please tell a friend, tell a kin, tell a coworker, tell that heifer that you can't stand that I'm over here making these videos. Money grab. We need more to go on. Exactly. I need more to go on. I think it is. I don't have enough to be able to say one way or the other. It just seems it's like I said, this is bone broth. I need for you to come with the salad, the meat, and the potatoes. I need more than this. And I know that Jonathan Delshad has come to us with more information, particularly with the Tyler Perry lawsuits. So he needs to come with a little bit more meat and potatoes in regards to this. Please tell a friend, tell a kin, and thank you all for who've been in the comments conversing with me. I really appreciate that. Please tell a friend, tell a kin, tell a coworker, tell that heifer that you can't stand that I'm over here making these videos. And as always, people, bye-bye.